Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Meatbags post E3 discussion. Yeah, discussion of what happened, what we liked, what we didn't like, what was shown off, and just in general our thoughts of this year's E3. We are your hosts, Akil and Charlie.
Hello.
You had to finish your Pepsi, didn't you?
And I bowed as well.
Oh, okay.
To be formal
I saw
and
that.
respectful.
Alright, so the way we're gonna do this is stop bowing. The way we're gonna do this is we'll start off, we'll go in the order of the way the conferences were shown. So to start with, we're gonna go with the worst conference, which is EA, which also happens to be the first one. Now, they showed off quite a few games at this conference, but they were mostly just sports titles and Battlefield title and a Battlefield title and so on. So let's start with, what was the first thing they showed? Battlefield, right?
I believe so. You're testing my memory now, but I believe so.
And they were showing off something to do with like a royal version of Battlefield to compete with Fortnite and PUBG. And a lot of people were like, what are you doing, EA?
It started off the trend of E3, or what I thought was the trend of E3, which was let's do the exact same thing we've done before. Let's play to our own audience and no one else. There was no, with that Battlefield stuff, it was like, here's more Battlefield, and I'm interested now, like I'm mildly interested in the story stuff they showed, but I know for a fact I won't buy it in the end, and I know it'll just be the same as all the others, so there's no point in even thinking about it.
Yeah, personally, I've never been into Battlefield or Call of Duty, so for me it's like, like while I was going on, I was probably just making a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things during E3 where it's like, you either need to watch this now, or you can just make a sandwich during this part of this thing. I was mostly waiting to see the BioWare part, but even that, we'll get to that. So next up, they also showed off, what was it? Sports titles. Yeah, it was sports next, right?
All of the sports.
All of the sports. Also, before we did this stream, we had another stream in which we talked about Skate 4. Well, I said Skate 4 is basically confirmed, and it's half true. Skate 4 isn't confirmed, but we do have a new skating game. But it's not made by EA, and it's not Skate.
Thank goodness.
What do you thank goodness?
Because let's be honest, if they made a Skate 4, it would be bad, because it's EA. Like, the only way we could have got a good skating game was if it was not EA making it. So thank goodness there's a bunch of random blokes who are like, should we make a skating game, guys? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
As opposed to EA being like, oh, how can we monetize this?
I'm looking at it now, and it's called Session.
Yeah.
I forgot what the dev name is, but they have a really cool name.
I think they're called Creature Studios.
What's it called?
I think it's Creature Studios.
Yeah, it looks good. From what I saw, it looks really, really good. It's more on the simulator side, but like I'm getting it.
Well, it's basically a spiritual sequel to Skate. It's not exactly that, like
Tony Hawk's and so on.
But they kickstarted it a couple of years ago, and now they're being partially funded by Microsoft to, I guess, increase their team size, get bigger, get better. And that's only a good thing.
All the Kickstarters that like started the whole Kickstarter boom a few years ago, I love to see that we're starting to finally see the fruits of the labor. Like Bloodstained is coming out, and I'm ready for Bloodstained.
I can imagine.
The game that came out, the game that wasn't even the main game that came out a few days ago. Well, like a week ago. Something. But it's based on Castlevania 3. It's so good.
Isn't it like a retro 8-bit?
Yeah, it's retro inspired, but it's so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. And to see another one makes me really happy.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of like those things, like Bloodstain's getting a lot of thing. I know Broken Age has already come out, which was Double Fine Adventure. That was really good. They're getting there. The problem is Kickstarter is obviously, for as many big success stories as there's as many massive flops.
Like number 9s.
Right, yeah, exactly. But
that's the prime example.
But at least we're seeing like Microsoft get behind that and be like, yeah, cool. I mean, it's a bit disappointing that I can't get it on my PS3, but PS4, sorry, on my PS3. Script. I want it on my PS3. No, it's not on PS4. It's only on at launch. At least it will only be on Xbox One and PC.
Session. It is.
But whether it comes to PS4 eventually, I don't know. I don't know what their Kickstarter said. I have no idea. But I guess because Microsoft was funding it, then that's the case. But it's really good to see them get behind something that everyone kind of wants. But thank Christ it's not EA.
I didn't realize. Yeah, I agree. I love how we completely sidetracked off of EA during the middle of the EA.
Because it was so
conference,
boring.
It was, man. Like Anthem just. We'll get to Anthem. We'll get to Anthem. Next was Star Wars.
Bring back
and
Helen.
they did exactly what you said they would do, and in that they would just stand up and go, "Yeah, we're just, you know, we're sorry, we fucked up." They didn't even say sorry. It was less of an apology than what you said they would say.
Yeah, there was no way they were
like,
ever going to say the words "I'm sorry."
But you know what really, really got me? You know how you got really hyped about the new Star Wars that the guy's making?
Oh, yeah.
How do you announce it by just going to the developer in the audience, put a microphone to his mouth, and just go, "So, with the most awkward exchange I've ever seen."
It's by far the worst way you could announce it.
It was so awkward. There wasn't even a logo screen. I'm like,
hey. I thought, for example, last year, right? Metroid Prime 4, I thought was such a horrendously bad announcement.
Yeah,
because
this was like 10 times worse.
They didn't even have a logo.
It was so much worse.
There was no logo.
It was so bad, and it was cringy. I hate the word cringy, but this was cringy.
The worst thing is we already knew it was coming. It had been leaked like a couple of months ago that they were doing it, and so we already knew it was coming. It was just a guy they knew they had nothing, right? And they knew they had to have something, and the only thing they could think of to bring was the guy from Respawn being like, "We got it, guys," which I'm super hyped about, and it's going to be great because Titanfall 2 is the best first-person shooter in the last decade, but, well, that and Doom, but, still, what are you doing?
The thing is that that's not even the worst of it. There were so many parts during this whole E3. Like, every developer felt like, "Oh yeah, we don't really have anything, so we're just gonna try and substitute this or that or that or that." And this goes for all of them. All of them.
Yeah.
My personal winner of E3 isn't even a guy isn't even a dev that made a conference, and I'll get into that in a bit. So next up, which is probably the biggest thing, was Anthem. And Jesus Christ. Am I the only one that thought that game had no sound effects or audio design at all during that whole conference? Like, normally you have bombastic sounds, you have great sound effects. They had very little. It just felt really tame.
It's the worst way of showing it.
It was horrible. It was really, really bad. The first trailer they showed off before it went to the game, so I was like, "Oh, it looks a bit interesting." Not that interesting. Then they started playing it, and I'm like, "This is terrible. Like, it's not good. This is your last game, and it's so boring."
Yeah. Again, there was a thing that happened a couple of times where it was just like, you had the person talking, like whoever it was, the developer talking, and then in the background you had sort of just like cut together gameplay, and then they had like a section where it would cut to it, and it was still just cut together gameplay shots. And they continue to. It's just Destiny, bro. Like, that's what it is. It looks like Destiny mixed with Monster Hunter.
It was not even Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter has character.
Well, that's what I'm saying. With less character, like, I like the design and the way it looks, but
of the mechs.
The way the world looks is really, really nice. Like, it looks really impressive. Yeah, it looks really impressive, and like the way the characters, like armors and that are designed, is quite cool, but you have to get past that. Like, personality is more than that. Like, the way they move, the way they think, and it's really super generic past that.
Yep.
And
they made a announcement after the fact, talking about how, "Oh, there's not gonna be any romances in it. We're gonna have friendships and stuff." And it just feels like this isn't a BioWare game.
Well, as I wrote to someone else, if I can't bang aliens, then I'm not buying the game.
Yeah. Like, don't try and compare this to Garrus in Mass Effect 3, because that was a character we went through 3 games with, we connected with, and by the time we got to his loyalty mission in that game, that scene was so well made because we had, 3 games of build-up of that character. Now you're just gonna go, "Oh yeah, you're friends with this guy for whatever reason," and it's like, no, you have to earn that. This isn't the way BioWare does their stuff. It feels like everything to do with this game feels like EA had their hands in it. Instead of it feeling like BioWare just developed this on their own, it felt like EA just said, "We need this, we need that, we need that, we need that, we need that."
Yeah.
And like, it may have started off as an interesting pitch or an interesting concept, but it's turned into something that is just like, well, soulless. That's the only thing I could really talk about.
It feels like a checklist of content. It doesn't feel like someone came up with the idea. Do you know what I mean? it's what it is. It's like we need a sort of Destiny Division-esque shooter with big stuff, and it's just, you look at it and it's like, okay, fine. And there's probably an audience for it. I don't know. I just find it interesting that that's the bet they've decided to try and make, is to try and outdo Destiny and to an extent the Division, because it feels like every one of the major publishers just needs one of those. So it's an interesting bet. I don't know how. I will see. It'll probably be successful just because I can see how much marketing money they're going to put into it. They've already put so much money into it that we're going to see like Super Bowl style adverts, like just huge push for it.
The thing is, I think it will be successful in terms of marketing, but like it doesn't have any legs. This thing is going to be a flash in the pan. So let's say the first week it will have a lot of sales, then people will start playing it, and I can see it just falling off a cliff.
Right.
From everything I've seen, it looks like it will just fall off a cliff. And yeah,
it's the MMO style model. You sell it, people play it for a bit, they get bored, they go away, and then you just sell them expansion packs, and they come back for the expansion packs. It's a model as old as time, and it's kind of crappy.
The thing is, though, this one feels even worse because I'm looking at forums and stuff after they showed up for this, and the people who normally get hyped for this, I just see them saying, this doesn't look good. It just looks really boring. The people who this is marketed to, like, there are some people that are really interested in it, but it feels like even among that audience, it's not being received as well as it should be.
From everyone I've spoken to in my friend group who are into those sort of things, it's a 50-50 split. Some people are like ready to buy it. They think it's going to be great. They're really excited to play it. The others are like, okay. Like, it's a 50-50 split. And so ultimately, I mean, when do we know what was the release date? I've forgotten.
Let me check. Scroll up, and from one IGN's whole, there's a lot of games on this, but like, it doesn't actually have a release date that is showing. Let me double check here. February 22nd. So, which is actually quite a crowded month after watching E3. There's a lot of things coming out very early next gen, which is a change because normally things are released later in the year, but a lot of things
we've slowly been seeing them moving towards
to like February, March, January. Like, it's becoming a very, very heavy month, which is weird. I wonder why. I'll have to research why, but
because the end of the year is too busy, and then you get like the end of the year is too busy. It's dominated by the big major sort of sports games all come out around that time. A lot of the major Call of Duty, Battlefield, a lot of the major big Assassin's Creed, a lot of the major big things that they lob at people come out around that sort of time, and so it becomes a really super congested period. And so they're slowly realizing, like, a couple of games started to do it, move into February and specifically and a bit of March, and they start to see success there. So publishers are starting to feel a little bit fine with moving games back there, especially as like a game like Anthem, I suspect, would have been aiming for the sort of, let's say, late October, early November period, but probably got delayed.
I have a feeling that they would have probably put this out in December if they didn't.
I feel like December's a death note for any game, honestly. I feel like
I don't know. I've seen a few games, like, wasn't there a game that was released like Boxing Day or the 20th or so?
Yeah, there was.
Either last year or so, and it did really well. I forgot what game it was or so.
But it's an interesting shift. Like, they're just shifting it across, and then I suspect what will happen is in like next generation, towards the end of the next generation, we'll start to see more and more games released around June and times like that. They'll just slowly filter out because it's becoming such a saturated market that it will slowly just filter out across the entire year, I suspect.
It's already saturated. There's so many coming out early next year.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah. So, what is your overall opinion of the year?
It's terrible. It was literally like, it started off the trend that I think this E3 was, which was just betting on your pre-existing market, not trying to reach out and not really taking any risks. I was super interested in their conference because I thought they had the most to gain. From the publisher side, at least, they had the most to gain. And instead of trying to gain, they just bet on what they already have, and didn't try to reach out at all. And it's the worst conference for me by far.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen an EA conference as bad as that one. and they've had terrible.
They've had terrible
conferences,
ones,
but this
yeah.
was like, this has been a downward spiral since I want to say 2010, 11. It's just been getting worse and worse, and this was to start off E3 with this dreck. No one enjoyed this conference, from what I gathered. Everyone was just like, it was really bad. Okay, next up.
But even just for the quickest of seconds, think about like previously they've had lots of bad conferences, but Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare was something new and weird and different. Titanfall 2 especially was something new, weird and different. If you go really far back, you can see like the Dead Spaces and the Mirror's Edges and that. But like Mirror's Edge Catalyst was something that people wanted and was never going to sell big, but they still went ahead and tried it. And it's like this one was literally nothing. There wasn't a single thing we hadn't seen or heard of. The only thing that hadn't been released before was Anthem, and we all can see exactly that it's basically a Destiny clone. It was absurdly safe. Absurdly safe.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have Microsoft. General opinions of this conference. Going into it, after EA, I said before, Microsoft had to reach to space to, catch up with Sony, and they did a good job this E3, but I have a lot of conflicting opinions about this conference because, as you said before, they were very safe. Like, almost all the games they showed off in this conference were multiplayer. And the games that they did show off that were, their original IPs, they are things we've seen for years and years and years, and that was Forza, Gears, Halo. And they did have a few good other exclusives like Ori 2 and so on, but like the biggest thing that I wanted out of this conference was a Fable 4 or something else, and we didn't get that. But instead we got promises for next gen. They were the first ones to go, this is our first shot at next gen. It felt like this is them saying Xbox One is finished. We've recently gotten a lot of developers and this is for next gen.
Yeah.
And that still leaves like 2 to 3 years of the Xbox One just floundering in the market, and it's like there's still nothing there that makes you want to get Xbox One. And I don't think that's good at all. Like, from a general idea of showing off a lot of games, this was great. You had Devil May Cry. I'll get into that. I'll get into that, Charlie. That's actually something that was rumored before that I forgot about in our previous stream. But there was a lot of good games there. Let's start with, well, we already talked about the stick skating game. What exclusive did you like from them? I know you like Gears.
Gears Tactics. Yeah. Gears and Halo continue to be utter wank. They're really, really Gears is trying its hardest to do something more.
I like to see what Gears 5 did though. Gears 5 sort of impressed me more.
They keep trying to make it something else. Halo is just the same shit over and over again. Fuck it.
That was basically a tech demo.
Yeah, and there was nothing there. It's like Halo Infinite. That was another weird trend of this E3, having a sequel with a name which doesn't have a number and has a random
Charlie,
thing.
I told you. Remember when I said Rayman Eternal? They love to do the whole, we're gonna be here forever, Eternal, Infinite. There was an Infinite as well, wasn't it? Doom.
Well, Doom was Doom Eternal. And Halo Infinite.
Halo
Smash Bros Ultimate.
Exactly, they love the whole idea. We're gonna be here forever. And it's like, I want one to be called Orbis to show that they eat themselves when they get too big. Assassin's Creed Orbis. I want it. Coin it 2019.
Wolfenstein Youngblood. Gears Tactics is like the most exciting exclusive to me from that they spoke about, because XCOM.
You're such a whore for XCOM. You really are. Between XCOM and kart racing. Gears cartridge.
Oh my god, yes. We need Uncarted, and we need Uncarted now. Off track. I think, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think the original signs of them giving up on this generation was the Xbox One X. and them
Yeah.
making a really, really hard play. Like, both of them were clearly going to release a sort of midway console. Otherwise, they both wouldn't have done it in such a short period of time. They were already planning to do that. But the way they marketed it as almost like the most powerful console ever, like that really, really lent heavily into that idea that it was this big new thing. It's essentially a console generation leap. They really tried, and that was their first gambit. That was them sort of throwing away. They did it earlier as well. They came out super early compared to Sony, like 6 months earlier than Sony, to officially announce it. And that was their first thing. They were like, okay, we're just going to chop the Xbox One away and sort of try to make a play to the hardest of hardcore. That was their basic shout, was like basically what Sony did originally, when Sony just went, you can play games on our things and you can lend them to each other, and it's great, isn't it, hardcore gamers? You don't have to be always online and all this other stuff. Like, it was a very clear play to the hardcore. And so when they did that, that was them sort of admitting failure, them going, okay, well, let's just chop that, let's try and game back in this way. It hasn't really played out. It sold, I think, probably better than the PS4 Pro did, I would suspect. Without looking at the numbers, I would suspect that to be the case. But it's still nowhere near enough to really switch the generational leap around. And so instead, what we're getting is them coming out again ahead of time, early, saying we're working on next gen is coming, like, and then making big plays, saying we've bought more studios, we're doubling down on that, we're gonna be like not outwardly saying it, but when we get to the beginning of next gen, you are going to see a different Microsoft that's firing on full cylinders. And what came out today, I didn't read the article or whatever, but one of my friends sent it to me, of Ninja Theory being told that they have basically creative freedom to make whatever they want, is incredible and the exact right moves, because the reason why Sony does so well is because they give their studios freedom. Like, no one tells Naughty Dog what to do. Naughty Dog does whatever the hell it wants. And although that's dangerous, but that's a great thing for people who actually like to play games.
I want to sort of go into those devs as well. Like, Ninja Fury being purchased by Microsoft is actually, that is a big deal.
Yeah,
that is a big deal.
That's
Ninja
the biggest
Fury
one.
Is, yeah, like, they announced 4 devs that they purchased.
And they created
one
a
was
5th.
Playground Games. Huh?
I think they bought 4 and made 1, didn't they?
Well, that's good things. Like, it feels like they are positioning themselves in the right direction, but they're doing it like 3 years later than they needed to.
For this generation, yeah.
If they did this 3 years ago, then it would be fine. But as I said before, after this E3 conference, I remember messaging you, and then you said, well, you know, they need to put a Band-Aid on it. But I'm still sort of in the opinion of, this is too late. This is way, way, way too late to do this. And then
I think I do agree with you that it's too late for this generation.
Because it's like, there's still 2 more years in this gen, and they didn't even announce any games with the devs. So they must have purchased these devs at least a few months ago. And they're only just starting to develop games for it. So we're not going to see any games from Xbox, from these devs, in, I want to say, within 3 years. I doubt we'd see any games from them in 3 years.
Well, I think wasn't Forza Horizon Playground Games?
Yeah.
And then they obviously hinted at Fable.
Yeah, that's another thing. I was expecting to see Fable 4 because Phil Spencer, while talking about Playground Games, said, we're making an open world game. I'm going to talk about it more later. And I was thinking, oh, okay, they're going to put a trailer for that later on in the show. And strangely enough, no trailer.
It's way too early for it. Way too early for it.
And I'm like, did you guys just put them on this now? And more and more, it just feels like, why are you guys so lethargic? Well, why did you wait so long to do any of this?
I knew it wasn't. I said to you, like, I didn't think it was going to, when we spoke before, that I didn't think it was going to come this year just because it felt too early. The rumours of it existing only came to be around, like, earlier this year. And so, like, they can't put something together that quickly. So I was like, chances are it will come in, like, 2 years. I think we'll probably see the 2 big studios for me that they got were Ninja Theory, and then the new one that they made. I can't remember what it's called. The Initiative, is that it? Or is that?
I think that's it. Yeah.
That's that Gears of War one. I can't remember, but that one, because I think whatever that studio is making is going to be their next big, huge tentpole franchise. That's going to be their next Halo or Gears or whatever that sort of area of big, huge tentpole franchise. And then Ninja Theory, because they've shown to be able to create super. I know you don't like DMC, right? But like, it's an interesting.
No, I like Ninja Theory because of what they do with Hellblade's Sacrifice. Like while they're developing that game, they made a bunch of dev videos
Yeah.
detailing about how this is how you try and make a AAA game with an indie game budget.
Yeah.
So straight from there, it's like these guys care about helping devs that aren't big, and just making the whole prospect of making a very enjoyable game cheaper for people who don't have the money to develop it.
I think
straight
that,
away I'm like, yo, they care about other devs and they are a dev first.
I think
DMC was just like a check, but they are a good developer.
I get that you don't like DMC, and that's 100% chill. You're wrong, but it's fine, right? I do, and all joking aside, I genuinely do understand that. But I think that Enslaved and Senua, I think all three of those games show that they're capable of creating something really, really excellent. I think all three of those games are excellent, and at times really, really super interesting. I think Senua is the most interesting out of all of them. I think Enslaved had some really cool things in it, the story in it, and the world in it was really super cool, and some of the gameplay was good. DMC, I think, is sort of a mixture of all of them. And so for them just to say, look, you've brought these people into the fold, they're going to make exclusives, and not only that, give them the creative freedom is a massive, massive deal for the future. Like I said, I think I agree with you. I think it's too late for this gen. I think they've just given up on this gen. I think from now until the end of the generation is looking at things like session and things gamers want, and just making sure you can keep the people happy who've bought one, give them good games to play, give them exciting things to do. I think this is probably the first Xbox conference in a while. I can't think of one off the top of my head where there's been both a Halo and a Gears game shown. I can't remember.
It was Halo, Gears, and Forza.
Well, that's what I mean. They're showing all of them. But yeah, I'm really shout out Forza. I'm really excited for Forza as well.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I was looking at it and I was like, oh, we have weather. And I'm like, yeah, in Harvest Moon, if you wait till winter, you can...
All right. Let's get into this, right? Weather-wise, it's rubbish because it's set in England, and every single weather thing isn't just rain. So instantly unrealistic and lies, because we all know when summer rolls around, we're getting storms. Like, there's no...
We have grey skies and sun.
Right. I don't know what they're straight up lies, but... the Forza Horizon series, I way prefer normal Forza. I think normal Forza was boring, and the Forza Horizon is actually really fun. It's just really fun. Like a big open world, you get to do dumb things inside of it. That's really cool and fun. Give me Forza Horizon Brexit Edition now, please. I'm good.
Brexit Edition. All right. The problem I have with Microsoft is it feels like they saw God of War. They saw Uncharted 4, they saw all these other games that Sony are putting out that are single player, and they're only reacting now. Instead of planning, they are reacting to what Sony are doing.
Right.
So so it feels like that's why they're doing all this so late, because they're just going, let's just wait to see how things pan out on that side, instead of going, we need to make our own stuff, just reacting to what Sony are doing. And it's like, it will lead to a better outcome, but it's so late now. And I'm just like, yo, come on. You're a multi-billion-dollar company, and this is how you do things. You're not supposed to react. You have to plan things out. And even though they bought even purchasing all these studios, it's like, it's cool you've done that, but it feels like more of a reaction rather than
I think what we saw at the beginning of this gen was them they had very clearly and very openly set themselves down a very specific path. They had geared literally everything towards that market, right? They'd gone down the road of what the original Xbox was meant to be. Since then, it's been just a game of them trying to turn the ship around, and it's taken them...
They've been playing catch-up. It's just been catch-up.
Well, it's not even catch-up. Like, they have to turn around before they even start to catch up. I feel like they've only just turned around, and now they're trying to catch up. It's like almost if they started driving in the wrong direction at the beginning of the race, and then, like, had to turn around just to catch up with, like, Sony again. It's
like
them...
they turned around almost 180 after, the whole big thing with them announcing their console, and then they slowly turned back, was slowly turning back to being straight, and now it's like, now we're straight and we can move forward.
And like, I think I'll give credit to Phil Spencer, not just because he has the same name as the man who hosts Location, although he does.
Also, is it just me, but does Phil Spencer walk really weird? His arms are just out.
Oh man, he's a robot.
They're so wide.
He's a robot.
It's like, what?
I love him.
Why are you walking like that?
I love him. Big Philly Spen doggy dog, mate. I love him. He's a great man.
Doggy dog.
He deserves credit because he's put it back in the place where it needs to be. He's made smart moves with cross-play against different consoles and different companies. Doubling down on like the PC market, trying to appeal to that is good. Doing the right things, buying new devs, all of that stuff is really good. But it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
It's going to take until the beginning of the next generation for them to even consider being close. But
yeah, as we said, too little, too late.
Ultimately, I'm happy because everything they've spoken about and everything they've done will only benefit the entire team of gaming later on down the line. It means we've got a brighter future. I think they've put themselves in a very good position for a brighter future, and that means the best thing for everyone because competition is great. Much better than EA, who basically showed us nothing.
Also, let's go into some of the multi-plat games showed off at this conference because there was a lot. There was a lot of multi-plat games. The biggest one I'll leave for last, but
what, Gears Tactics?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's your biggest one, but my biggest one is that's not even multi-plat. That's a PC thing.
Don't care, mate. Gears
that's
Tactics.
Not coming on Xbox One. It's weird.
Yeah, it's not. It's coming out PC only.
Wow, man.
Gears Tactics.
The biggest thing. Well, there's two games that got me like I marked out. One of them was Tales of Vesperia.
Really? Okay.
I don't know if you know this, but Tales of Vesperia is one of my favorite games of all time.
I didn't know that.
That game originally came out only on Xbox 360. I love that game so much. It's probably the second strongest JRPG I've ever played.
It's a remaster, right? The one they're bringing out?
Yep. And to see it finally come back, and like they're using the PS3 Enhanced Edition as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm marking out over that. I am marking the hell out over that. Like I marked out. And the second one, which made me mark out, Devil May Cry 5.
Okay, yeah, Devil May Cry 5.
My God. Capcom killed this E3.
Brexit May Cry.
Yeah, Capcom. That's Devil May Cry 5. Like, it's a full sequel to DMC 4. This Nero you play is gameplay looks fantastic, and it has a lot of people say it looks like DMC that Ninja Fury made, but it's only because of the graphical jump. Like this is closer to DMC than it was in DMC 4, so the graphical jump is humongous, and to see it look this good and be showed up for E3 and be received so well, and even like when they came out, it was like, yeah, we heard you, we know you didn't like DMC reboot. Here's DMC 5, and people got hyped. Me primarily. It made me really happy about E3. As I said, this E3 was very surprising for a lot of negative things. Bethesda. But there's a lot of positive things as well. Primarily from Capcom. Capcom was GOAT this E3.
They did do a lot of good things actually, to be fair. I hadn't thought about that, but they did that and something else that we'll talk about later for me.
At both of the main two conferences. So what about you? What was your favorite multiplats at the E3? Oh, and Ori. Ori was my favorite exclusive they showed off. I'm interested in that game.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Don't know. Xbox was such a long time ago now. Probably just it's difficult not to say Cyberpunk. I
have thoughts on that too.
I'm interested. I'm not excited because we haven't seen gameplay yet. So I'm that world looks cool. The vibe is cool. The font they use for the title is cool.
There's two games this E3 that made me feel a way in that it's been so many years now and we still haven't seen fucking gameplay. And everyone's hyping it to death. And I'm just like, yo, we still haven't seen gameplay. And one of them's Cyberpunk, the other one's Death Stranding.
We saw Death Stranding gameplay.
Did we?
That was
walking.
That was 100%.
But I still don't know what I'm doing.
That's what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing yet.
That's what you're doing. You're walking.
But like after the fact, Cyberpunk had this big glitch screen in which the developers talk about, here's why this happened and here's why this is happening. And like a lot of people say, oh, it's fine, they did that. But I'm like, dude, that's not enough.
I think I think their problem is they
talk.
just announced it too early, and I don't understand why they did. The fact they announced it like 2 years before Witcher 3 came out, and then like I don't get why they did that. I still don't understand why they did that. I mean, it's built hype for it, and now there is a huge amount of hype going into it. So I guess you could say that worked and made sense. But people have been expecting it to come out for a while because they teased it before Witcher 3, and I was like, there's no way. The team's making Witcher 3.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not soon.
It's not a big studio. And also, it's like a lot of that is just PR talk. A lot of things they put up is like, oh, we're talking to you from the heart, but it's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
I think
there's no gameplay still.
I still
don't know exactly what I'm doing in it. It's cool to see, oh look, this is the setting. There's a few things, but this is not enough.
No, this should be the first thing you show. This should be the first thing you show.
Yeah. It's been so many years now, and I still have no... Well, even Death Stranding showed off a bit more of what you're actually doing, walking, but this just felt like... How do you end Microsoft on this? And it's just... I still don't know what to make of it.
Because people want it.
Hype for this.
The problem is that your stance and most other people's stances are significantly different, because I think most people rate CD Projekt Red a lot higher than you do. And so they've got that excitement because they're like, oh, I want to see what's next from them. They're seeing a new thing. They're getting all hyped like it's existed before. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm interested in it. But until I see gameplay, I can't get truly excited.
Like, apparently there is gameplay. There was people saw 40 minutes of it, and I'm like, guys, the whole secret thing that now, it doesn't work anymore. If you have gameplay that is good enough to show...
I disagree. I disagree.
Something.
I disagree. I think you can show it behind closed doors, and that be an okay thing to do.
Not after 3 years, man. Not after 4 years. 3 to 4 years of announcing the thing. It's like, it's too late. You need to show something. It's too long. It's too long. It's ridiculous to go, oh, we're gonna show some things behind closed doors. No.
I think it's fine to close. I think it's just their time schedule is weird, and not only that, I think it's concerning to me that I was really there was two conflicting trends. There was a lot of games which were announced which are coming out this year. They were announced at E3 coming out this year, and I'm very, 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 very happy for that. I want the time between announcement and games coming out to be as short as humanly possible. I think that's the way forward. That's the correct way to go. That's the best way to go. I also think from a publishing standpoint, you're generating hype. You say it's out there, and you hear people go, oh my god, it's out this year. Yes. That time between them hearing about it and they're purchasing it shortens it, and that's better for them as well as it is for us. My concern is that we got Starfield announced and Elder Scrolls announced and a couple of other things which we don't have a date, we don't have a time for, and that's just possibly, and it's so far in the future. I don't understand why they would do that, because it doesn't seem to be beneficial at all. I think that Cyberpunk has benefited from that time because everyone's clearly very excited for it. They announced it, and then Witcher 3 came out, was a huge success, and so everyone has just continued their hype train. So I guess it has worked for them. However, I think they should have showed. I personally, and I think the rational way to think about it would be not to get too excited before you see gameplay. Just because we're not 100% sure how it plays. We can make estimates and we can make guesses, but until we do, yeah.
There was also one other game shown off that got a lot of interest, and that was From Software's new game. Is it Shadows Die Twice?
Something like that. It was called Sekiro or Seriko or something like that. And then Shadows Die Twice, whatever the subtitle.
And it looks like Souls. It's a Souls game. Out of all the ones that they've shown off, it's probably the one I'm most interested in. But even then, I'm like, it's Souls. I think FromSoft at this point are like, guys, you need to do something. You've been doing the whole Souls thing for quite a while now. If I was looking at the release schedule, and it's 2010 to 2018, it's all just been Souls games.
Well, wasn't there 2 other From Software games announced during E3?
There was another one, and it was for Nintendo, but it's a remake of an old game.
But then they're also making a VR game for PlayStation. In them, and they're teaming with Studio Japan.
Yeah, and also this one is teamed up with Activision. A lot of people like with it, but it looks alright. Overall, Microsoft was a lot of mixed feelings. A lot of people say it was the best conference, but personally, you can't have the best conference and not have any new IPs. In my opinion, like
I think you can, but you need to like really, you need to really blow the doors off. If you've got nothing brand new to show, you've got to blow the doors off. And they didn't.
Because all the things they showed off were multiplayer, and it's like, cool, I'll play some on my PS4. This is a general E3 cool game, but to get me to get an Xbox, you failed. You failed at it. And it's cool that you're showing off what you're gonna do later, or hinting at it, but it's not enough, man.
It's interesting because I think I'm gonna have this the same opinion, but for one of the other conferences that you probably won't have, which we'll get to later. But
I think I will too, honestly. If it's the guys who I think you are, I think it will too. Next up, we had Bethesda. Now, going into this was the guys I was most interested to see what they had. And
again, I think we're going to have opposite opinions here.
They gave me a gut punch, this E3. We'll leave that one to last. But they showed off 2 great games. No, 3 great games. One of them was Rage 2.
Rage 2 looks amazing.
Was the best thing I saw at that conference.
Rage 2
looked great. That looks so good. Like the way that the powers you get, that was a bit similar to Mass Effect. That, contour enemies and stuff. Rage 2 looked great. I'm getting Rage 2. What's your thoughts on Rage 2?
Super, super excited. Like, I can't think of the first one without thinking of the tech demos they showed before they came out, where they kept going on about things like mega textures and rubbish things like that, which mean absolutely nothing. And it came out and it was very boring and very dull. And then Borderlands came out and everyone was like, oh, this is what Rage should have been. The color palette is brilliant. Just to look at,
it's using the same engine as Fallout as well.
Just to look at, it's super, super nice to look at. They have this sort of boring, dullish, deserty tones that the first one had, but the splashes of color that they've got, like just the exhaust of the car being like a neony blue, like the purples, the bright fluorescent colors, really makes it stand out and look super interesting. I saw someone who played it on the show floor describe it as the gunplay specifically as Doom with superpowers, and like that instantly sells me. I don't think it's as fast as Doom, but it does look very, very quick. The movement looks very, very nice. Then you add in the car combat from Mad Max, which was really good, but with guns and all this other nonsense going on. It looks excellent. It went from me being like, I'm interested to I'm definitely going to get that at some point. Also, let's take a very brief aside. Andrew WK, right, is a large man, and he's got seps on him, my friend. He's got some biceps that any man would want. Like, Andrew WK is hencher.
I don't know why they would start with that though.
Because Andrew WK, you don't say no to that man. Do you see how big he was?
I thought they'd start with that, and then while they were playing, the game would be playing in the background. But instead, I'm like, oh. One of these.
I think it's one of those things where like the way conferences are going, it's less from like presentation to performance to your market, and so like having something like that.
This was the first of many. There's quite a few of these in this E3.
Especially given the fact that now the public is open, the E3 is open to the public. We're probably just going to see more and more of these happen. Ubisoft. We're probably going to see more and more of these happen. But it wasn't long enough. It probably outstayed its welcome ever so slightly, but I was fine with Andrew WK.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. We have worse examples later. But it was fantastic, man. Rage 2, like, it feels like what Far Cry 3 did for the Far Cry series, in that the previous games people were, they were right with. Then Far Cry 3 happened and was like, yo! Everyone got hyped over it. And this feels like the same thing for the Rage series.
Or maybe... Yeah, I guess. I think Far Cry 2 is the best Far Cry, but yeah. Yes.
Hipster.
It's just really good, man.
Don't you get
Far Cry 3 is really good as well, but Far Cry, you do get Malaria. It's super, like, don't get me wrong, it's finicky as all hell, man. Like, some of those things that the game does is so annoying, but as a whole, however, Rage 2, super, super, super excited for. I've gone from being interested to definitely wanting to buy it.
Yeah. I'm excited for that game. Also, they had 2 bombshells. One of them was Doom Eternal.
Yep.
Which we didn't get any gameplay, but it was a teaser.
That teaser was amazing.
You could glean quite a lot from the teaser. Like, we know who the composer is, we know where it's set, and we still know what type of enemies are showing up. So even though it wasn't a gameplay teaser, it was a good teaser.
And I'm fine with that being the first thing I see. Next time, show me gameplay. Now I'm happy just for you to go, we're making another Doom. The guy came out after and he went, do you want more aliens? Do you want hell on earth? Do you want more Doom? Here we go. We're bringing it. Let's go.
That was great.
Like, that was it.
Was great.
That's all I need as a teaser. That's the perfect way to do it.
And Wolfenstein 3, well, we didn't get... That was a teaser as well, but I'm actually interested in it. Like, I know I said before, Wolfenstein I'm not really that into, but the whole idea of them going, similar to in the Godfather games, where they start off in the 30s or so, then they move forward in time to like the 60s, and they move forward in time again to like the 80s. I'm like, I'm all about it. I want to see what they do. Because it feels like they're actually world building as well as making good games. So
it's interesting, like, I don't know where it sits. I'm going to do something I would take the mick out of someone else for. So I apologize in advance.
Is it about the law?
I don't know where this sits in the lore, because it's far ahead in time. You play your
It's his daughters, isn't it?
You play as BJ Blazkowicz's twin daughters in 1980s Paris. You would think he'd managed to beat the Nazis by then, but apparently he hasn't. By the 80s, apparently they're still about doing their thing. So I don't know if this is Wolfenstein 3 per se, but everything they said of it makes me very, very, very excited.
Yeah, it sounds like a legit interesting way to take the series, and I want to see what they do with it. Prey also has a DLC that I'm going to try out whenever.
That trailer was awesome,
at some
by the way.
point. Yeah, Prey. I love Prey. Prey is great. I said it. Like, it was a sleeper game last year that people didn't play that was really good.
Yeah.
But here comes the gut punch to me.
All right, before we get there, I'll just say this about Prey. Even though I liked what they showed and everything they said, it's still that trend again coming up of just playing to your already existing audience. It's still that trend of just saying, oh, we've got more Prey for people who like to Prey, which is great, but it's not something new and fresh and big. But that trailer specifically is so good. The one where it plays, you spin me right round in the background. Like,
were you hoping for Prey 2?
I thought it was way too early for Prey 2. I didn't think there was any chance of Prey 2. I would have preferred Prey 2. It's a good thing to tide over, but it's just a point that it sort of continues to play into this trend.
Okay.
I like Fallout 76. Go on.
Fallout 76.
I don't have to like it.
Before this conference started, this was the thing I was most looking forward to at the C3. Like, I wanted to see where they'd take it. I didn't make fun of you for the lore bit that you just said about Wolfenstein, so don't make fun of me.
The lore!
But, everything they showed off before Todd Howard started to talk about it, the trailer, the new creatures, oh my god, the new creatures look great.
Yeah.
Like, it all looked great. And then he started to talk about the game, and then the words always online and multiplayer came out of his mouth. Before this, I was like, oh, it's probably co-op. Like, I'd be fine with co-op, but this is an MMO. Fallout 76 is an MMO, and it's the biggest gut punch to me because
it's not an MMO. I wouldn't say it's an MMO, but carry on. It's not. An MMO would be more than. They said like 12 people in a server. There's more than that.
No, they said dozens. They said dozens of people.
Nah, bro. It's not an MMO.
No, he said dozens. He didn't say one dozen. He said
I interrupted you, though.
I
interrupted you. I apologize. Carry on.
And it's like, the problem is that not only that, but there are no. He also said later on there'll be no NPCs. All the people in the game are just going to be other players, and it feels like, how can you read the room this badly with Fallout? Now, people who enjoy Fallout, as you said before, you want to sit down, you want to play Fallout, and you don't even want to talk to someone, but you said you'd be alright with playing co-op or whatever. This isn't even that. This is a full-blown multiplayer battle arena game with the Fallout skin painted on it. And I'm just like, how can you read the room this wrong with this much hype going into it? This should have been like a New Vegas. You know, similar, same engine, different setting, different story, different mechanics. But basically, you're repeating what you did last gen with Elder Scrolls Online, and just going, hey, we're gonna do the same thing, but now with Fallout. So it's now Fallout Online, and we're not gonna get any big games from us till next gen. That's why we're announcing these games now, because the team working on Fallout and Elder Scrolls, it take a long time. So that it feels like that's what they did, and it really. it diffused me real bad, man.
I think. How do I word this? One of the things I used to like in the past games, and especially when I go back and play them now, is, and Fallout has had a couple of these as well, is when franchises have offshoots and spin-offs which aren't just the same thing. Like, there's been some main, like off the top of my head, like Zelda 2, Mario 2 are very different from Mario 1 and Zelda 1 if you want to go all the way back to the beginning of games, but they're direct sequels. Yep. But there are a lot of offshoots and spin-offs. Crash Team Racing.
Even Fallout has some tactics.
Right, exactly. Fallout Tactics, Halo Wars. There's tons of examples throughout time of spin-offs and things that are just interesting and small and not as large as the big ones, but are interesting side projects. I think with 76, this is what it is. I think it's just a spin-off. I think the fact you spoke about reading the room wrong. I don't know whether it's them reading the room wrong or the room reading them wrong. I think that it's, how do I word?
It's a gamble.
I don't think
they want to do something new.
I don't even think it's a gamble. I think it's just an interesting side project, and I think the fact that they came out after, it wasn't even the main event of their conference. Like, it had the most time by a significant amount of portion because they needed to explain what the hell it was. But like after that, we got Elder Scrolls Blades, which looks like a more.
It actually looks alright.
Which looks like a more interesting thing for hardcore Elder Scrolls players than this looks like for hardcore Fallout players. Then we also got Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield after that. So it became incredible. They made it abundantly clear that this is just a side project for them. This is not a mainline thing. You can play it as if it was one if you wanted to. They spoke about solo play basically right at the beginning. They almost said it's online only, but of course you can play it by yourself, was almost the way they worded it. Like, it was that soon after. I think it's a cool little side thing. I think in 10 years' time, 20 years' time or whatever, if you were looking back at the history of Fallout and the series of Fallout, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was a cool little interesting spin-off they did where they tried this online bit. I think it does, like, I'm going to talk about lore. I think it does feed into the lore. I think it works perfectly within that world. The world and the monsters look super interesting. That bit I will entirely agree with you on. Like, they very obviously knew what they had and the reception they were going to get because they tried to front load you with like the most interesting bits for people who love Fallout. The world looks like amazing. It looks so much better than 4. 4, I had problems with the way that game looked at times. I thought it looked a bit too homogenous, a bit boring at times. The color palette, stuff like that was a bit iffy. Not as much as 3, but 3's last gen, so what's the point in talking about that now? But 3, Jesus Christ, that game was boring to look at, even though it's my favorite Fallout. This one looked incredible, and like the monster designs are really cool. Like I was like, when I was watching that straight
the shockwave.
Yeah, that when they brought all that stuff out, I was like, oh, this looks good.
Exactly.
It's super divisive, and they knew that. I think it's just a cool little thing that's going to exist. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. It looks like Destiny again. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I think it's just going to be a thing that exists, and then it moves on. I didn't take it as negatively as everyone else did.
Like I'm not even angry. I'm just like sad that this is what it was, because there's so much potential for that. And like the fact there's no NPCs.
There are NPCs because you have to go and get trained.
The guy.
I guarantee you right now there'll be NPCs.
He had an interview afterwards saying the only other people in the game are player control people, and it's like the more they talk about the game, the more I'm just like, why?
Well, you have to get quests from someone.
I don't know how you're gonna do it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so there has to be at least one.
It just the more I think about it, the sadder I get. So I'm gonna move on because it actually it makes me a bit sad.
All right, so just before you move on, I'll say this: I'm probably not going to buy it. Like, I'm sort of interested. I like the idea of like a Daisy Rust style experience in Fallout universe. That super interests me as someone who enjoyed both of those games. I'm mildly interested. I don't think I'd buy it on launch unless it was, I don't know, the pricing would have to be weird. Also, I have no money, so I'm not buying anything on launch. But it's interesting to me. I think over time it will be a solid 7.5. It'll be nothing more than that.
I was interested. I was gonna buy it for a bit after they announced it, but then as I heard more information, I'm just like, no, I can't. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. It hurts me because I have so much Fallout merchandise around me, and I've played all the games from 3 onwards, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm skipping this. And I don't want to skip it, but not.
The one thing I really hope comes from it is that the gaming community learns not to hype themselves up, because we keep getting disappointed by things, and I really hope that like I went into it the second they announced it. I saw Duration Schreier speaking about it. He was like, if you think it's going to be normal Fallout, you're going to be disappointed. And I was like, okay, they're trying something new. They're trying something different. I went into it that mindset and I went, okay, kind of interesting. Probably not going to get it, but that's fine. We'll move on. I'll find something else. And I feel like the rest of everyone else was still hyped and still sort of grasping out for what they hoped it would be without actually trying to confront themselves beforehand and go, it's probably not going to be that. And so hopefully, like with pre-order culture, like with all of those other just things and bad habits we as a community need to get out of, I hope it at least helps that a bit, because we're only going to disappoint ourselves more if we don't.
Next up, Starfield. Well, Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6.
Excited for Starfield, don't care about Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. We said earlier how Microsoft are talking about next gen. Bethesda are fully in now, and they're like, yeah, these are our first 2 games. Starfield, don't know anything about it, but the fact that they're working on a space game, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that next gen. Now, again, you announced it way too fucking early, because I'm gonna keep thinking they might show one thing this E3, or maybe they'll show a little bit of this E3, but we're not gonna see fuck all from this until we get the next console announcements, just because of the nature of the industry.
I think Starfield is a lot further along than you think it is.
It probably is, but
there
like,
were rumors last year that they wanted to announce it last year, which makes me think that it's a lot closer than people think it is as well. They said next gen, but didn't qualify what that meant. They could. The general idea, which I agree with, the general consensus is that they meant next generation consoles, which I think probably people are thinking about specifically because it led just after Microsoft speaking about next gen, which I think that's probably what they mean as well, but they could just be meaning the next generation of their systems, of their engines, a lot of their stuff, the next generation of their people making it. There's a lot of different ways in which you could spin that. I think it will be a crossover title. I think we'll probably see a PS4, Xbox One, Xbox 2, PS5 version of it, sort of thing, like Watch Dogs.
But even if that's the case, I don't see them really showing it off.
I don't see why you would.
For a good while.
I feel like it's an interesting case for you specifically because of what you said earlier about Cyberpunk. I feel like this is just your Cyberpunk.
No, I'm hyped for it, but like, I'm not gonna see it I know full well I'm not gonna see it for a while. And it's like, it's cool that you announced that you're making a new franchise, but like, I'm not gonna see it for a while.
What I mean is, like, when you spoke about Cyberpunk, you spoke about like, you don't like, they haven't shown gameplay yet, so you didn't really understand the excitement in that. I feel like that's just people going, I love the studio, I can just transpose Witcher 3 gameplay into that setting, I'm hyped for that sort of game. And I feel like it's the same thing with you. It's like Elder Scrolls, flip that or Fallout, flip that into the space setting. I am hyped for that. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited as well. I feel like it's just the way it is. I'm not going to think about it literally ever again until we see gameplay.
Yeah, probably in the same boat there. But overall, Bethesda, they're very polarized for me, the C3. I liked a lot of stuff they showed off. They had one really, really bad gut punch for me, but overall, they were pretty good. For me, they're like a 7 out of 10 or so.
Yeah.